Dr. Dean, as I was reading through the material before we did this show, I was very interested in what I was reading about this, the link between PMS and candidiasis. Can you elaborate a little bit on what it is?
It's a big topic, Leah. Because I do consultations on PMS and candidiasis, I've been seeing an overlap personally. And when I read the literature, we're finding that the yeast organism that we all have, which is stimulated to grow more under the influence of hormones, will then grow more before the period. Now, yeast for most women is a yeast vaginitis, but we're finding out more and more that it can be related to other symptoms of fatigue, lethargy, chronic sore throats. I could go on because the list sometimes matches the same list of symptoms as we see in PMS. So not only do we have to try to diagnose PMS, we have to differentiate it from other conditions. I could even go into Epstein-Barr virus or hypoglycemia. These symptoms all overlap. What it means is self-help groups that are sprouting up are necessary because women have to be listened to through their 30 complaints. Doctors don't have time. Some doctors will have a notice on their desk, 2 complaints is the maximum. When you have symptoms from head to feet, then, and it's one complex, you really want to treat it as a whole entity, as Dr. Anderson has said.
We're going to take a commercial break, but when we come back, I want to talk to you a little more about why it's not being looked at more closely by the medical profession. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this with more discussions on PMS.
Thank you, Conrad Sauvé. Thank you, Martin Cloven.
Welcome back. You're watching the Hains Report, and we're talking about PMS. Dr. Dean, I had asked you to address the issue of how the medical profession is responding to the information about candidiasis.
Not very well. What I would have to say about that is when there's a condition that has not been proven with double-blind, crossover, placebo-controlled studies. Proven,
can you repeat that? No, you really
no. Proven definitely to exist. Unless it's proven, it's not believed. The day it's proven, everyone will believe it. It's that kind of situation with candidiasis. With candidiasis, with the overgrowth of yeast, the use of birth control pills, sugar diet, and antibiotics, we get this overgrowth. Before the period, if a woman is eating too much salt and sugar, it will increase her fluid retention, increase her PMS symptoms, and increase her yeast. So these things tend to come together. I can't say there's a definite correlation between the two, but I am seeing it in my practice, and more doctors have to start recognizing it.
Hi. It's said that the human condition is in the influence of chemicals bouncing around in our neurons. I'm just wondering if it affects a part of our brain. Has that been looked into? Could it be a psychological thing, or is it psychological as well as physiological, as well as nutrition, environmental? I mean, does it take everything, or are they trying to narrow it down?
Now, are you asking the chemicals from the hormones, or can you
are you asking what's causing the PMS?
Particular hormones, do we know? Is it a particular part in the brain
that are creating the PMS?
Yeah.
Well, when I did a paper on medical management of PMS and researched all the possible causes, there are hundreds of theories on the causes of PMS. And where some women can have a magnesium deficiency, and that's their cause. Some women a B6 deficiency. Some women it's too little progesterone or too much estrogen. And in medicine, where we try to have one cause and one cure, that doesn't fit in PMS. That may be why the medical profession can't really recognize it, because they have trouble identifying it.
I was wondering if there's a correlation between acid buildup in the body system and the yeast factor.
Acid buildup?
Yes.
Well, I guess the explanation I would give for acid buildup, do you mean toxicity or the wrong foods or the...
Well, if anyone has a strong buildup of acid. Their body produces too much acid.
Right.
That can cause ulcers, and I always seem to get mouth ulcers and all kind of acidity symptoms during that time or just before.
Right.
I feel they're correlated somehow.
It's a good point. When I said earlier that a sugar buildup or too much salt before the period can cause fluid retention, acid buildup can probably cause fluid retention too. I can't specifically say if there's a studied correlation, but I hear what you're saying. And it's important before the period to have as good a diet as possible, avoiding salt, coffee, sugar, all the so-called good things, and people will feel much better.
You're watching the Hains Report, and we're talking about PMS. And Lorraine, I did say I would come back to you, and you were talking about how your husband's responded.
Well, I would just like to add that my husband has noticed that I'm very creative premenstrually. So it's not all negative. There are positive symptoms and positive feelings.
Which is great to know, because we haven't heard very much about the positive.
That's for sure.
Yes, I'd like to interject. I think it's extremely important. For example, in native cultures, women before the period would congregate together in the women's lodge at the full moon. They'd all have their menses together, and the days before that they'd work together and sing and chant and talk about
What changed that?
Well, what changed that perhaps was that women have the power to grow life, and men don't, and men want to control that. Perhaps that's what changed it.
Dr. Henderson, perhaps you'd like to comment.
No comment.
That's definitely the hot seat, isn't it? What kind of advice do you give to a woman who thinks she's suffering from PMS and wants to get help?
Keep a diary. Go to the doctor, present the information.
Now that I've asked you to give me that, I'm going to stop you and say goodbye to our at-home audience. Thank you for joining us. Hope you'll come back next week, and please continue with what you're saying.
And with the diary, be able to present it to the doctor in black and white. This is what happens to me. What can I
The Hains
afford?
Report is sponsored by General Motors of Canada
Modern magazines
and
today,
Petro-Canada,
Modern
Inc.
magazine, you name it. There are questionnaires with information about PMS. People
Transportation for the Hains Report is provided by Prestige Limousine Service. If you have any comments, ideas, or if you'd like to be part of the studio audience in your city, write us. Care of this station.
Really work for
The
you.
endorphin part, the endorphins are released and will help that whole hypothalamic.
How do people find out about the self-help group? Do they, are the doctors recommending that they take part in this?
Yes, definitely. It's a very big part of the treatment for PMS. Some women do not necessarily have to visit their doctor if they're not suffering severely. And coming out to support groups and just talking about their problems will help them. Will relieve the problems a lot. There's also a good book by Michelle Harrison. I think it's
A wave of unplanned events knocked the wind out of the guys' plans to buy a sailboat on Men. Charlie loses his job, and Paul may become the host of a TV talk show. Don't miss Men, tonight at 10 on CFTO TV.